Welcome to Real Health with me, Carl Henry. Folks, sleep has become a central health topic for absolutely everyone around Ireland. But what about your child's sleep? How do they sleep and why is that important? Young parents know very well, myself included, the challenges of sleepless nights that come with a newborn and children as they grow. But all hope is not lost. The person in studio today, the founder of Babogue and certified child sleep consultant, Erica Hargaden, joins me in studio. Erica, welcome. How's it going?
Thank you so much. Delighted to be here.
No pressure now. No pressure. You'll have everyone's ears are peaked and they're all psyched because we all want children to sleep a little bit better. Let's get to know you a little bit first. This is what you do for a living. I know because I contacted you a couple of years ago and you transformed how our children sleep. How did you get into it? That's what I want to know first. Let's start there.
Because my first child, who's now 15, nearly broke me. And I don't say that lightly. I know a bit of a smile on my face now saying it, but it was a very chronic situation. He really didn't sleep much more than 45 minutes to an hour overnight. And this was well beyond the newborn stage. And I was a very, very broken woman. And everywhere I turned to look for support and help, you know, the places that you think to go to, your GP, you know, your public health nurse and whatnot, really people weren't able to give me the hope, the direction. At one point I was told that I wasn't coping and I wasn't coping. Yeah, no, and I wasn't.
Which is very normal, and it's important to, like, that's very normal, that stage of, like, when you have your own lack of sleep in conjunction with this other human that you're trying to learn how to sleep and they don't, like, you do get to that point of, like, you're broken.
Absolutely. And you're embarking into a new chapter in your life where they don't come with a manual. We don't know what we're doing. We're doing our best. We don't know what we're doing. So with the sleep deprivation, I really wasn't able to see the wood from the trees. Everything was very, very grey. And I was becoming a shadow of myself. And it wasn't just my bond with my baby, it was my bond with everything. You know, my marriage, which was only a year in existence, you know, so all of my relationships, and I wasn't living where I was from. So, you know, I'm 2 hours away from, you know, the place where I grew up. So I didn't have that, you know, village, that circle, that support around me. But my mum at one point really did step in and said, like, we need to do something about this, because she was just so worried about me. And when I took her guidance and support, she actually stayed with me for about 2 weeks and did for me for what I now do for families, support them through understanding their children's sleep so that they can guide them towards what they're developmentally capable of. And really my why is to try and avoid another Erica, that time where I was 29 years of age, I was such a young woman, I was at the absolute, I should have been in this like joyous situation and I was just broken.
Because it spirals on a self level. It does spiral you into a very vulnerable state.
Totally. Like I couldn't hold conversations without crying. I couldn't even go uptown with Quinn in the buggy without feeling like the walls were closing in on me, even though I was outside. Like, it was a very, very dark situation. And now the more I've worked with families, and I have been working with families for 7 years, this is not unique to me.
I think we probably rang you when we were close enough to that.
Probably very close to it. The amount of mothers who call me and they cry on the phone and they're very, very vulnerable. Yeah. And equally the amount of grandmothers that have phoned me because they're very worried about their daughters. And the dads that ring me because they're worried about their family situation and that it is getting really, really fragmented, and they can pinpoint that it's because of chronic sleep deprivation. Mm-hmm. You know, that it's the chronic bit. Mine was very, very chronic, but everybody's level will be different. Everybody's tolerance in relation to sleep deprivation will be different. And I think we all have a certain inbuilt tolerance level when we have children, but it's when it goes beyond that. That's when somebody might reach out for a little bit of help and might feel like they need a little bit of help.
And okay, so where do people start then when they're worried about their child's sleep? Is it to go to the GP? Is it to what do you do?
Yeah, I like to
Obviously,
go.
they ring you if they do too, right? But like generally, like what's the place to start?
Look, at a lot of people go to social media now for their parenting tips and tricks, and I think, go there with a bit of caution. Make sure that you're following people that are really well qualified and have a lot of experience. But yeah, going to your GP to make sure that there's nothing underlying that could be causing the sleep issues. Like in
What would cause that? Like
colic. If you've got like cow's milk protein allergy, maybe you've got a reflux situation going on. And I had all of those with Quinn. And even when I got on top of those issues, his sleep still didn't improve. So if a parent comes to me and says, I have X, Y, and Z going on that are medical related, I'll say, go to your GP, get those things managed, lean in, maybe go for a paediatric consult if you can get one. And then if the sleep doesn't improve, that's when you need to start looking at, well, what is my child developmentally capable of in terms of their sleep? Because what a newborn can do and what a 9-month-old can do around sleep are chalk and cheese. So getting to know what they can do and then starting to guide them towards that. So putting in place the practices that are going to get them there. So a little bit of research can go an awful long way. There's a lot more sleep information out there now than there was when I started out 15 years ago. My husband used to cut articles out of the paper for me. I didn't even have an iPhone. Imagine, I didn't have an iPhone when I was starting out my parenting.
I barely remember life without my phone.
Yeah, I had books that I read, and I really do love a book. I have to say I love a book because I think when you've got a published author, you've got something that's been, really rigorously gone through. So I love when parents reach out to read a book. I love when they follow people that are really, really good at what they do and really well qualified. And that's just a great place to start.
It's important to say, though, there is a level of sleep deprivation that comes with a child.
Yeah.
And some of it is normal. And I suppose what I want to get at is how much is, for one, I know it's very hard to quantify, but what's normal and then what's I should be worried?
I think if you have a situation where you have a 6-month-old that is still waking every couple of hours overnight, then you possibly have a sleep challenge going on.
Okay, so by 6 months there should be a
more patterned. A newborn baby is born with very little sleep skill whatsoever. Between 6 and 8 weeks, when you see those first social smiles, that's actually the first stages of sleep development in behind it, like very immature, like really immature. But it's actually a time frame where you could start loose routine if you wanted to. And then when they get between 4 and 6 months, there's another stage of development which can throw the cat amongst the pigeons.
That's regression now, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
But let's reframe it. Let's call these regressions progressions. Okay. Because every single sleep regression is related to a developmental progression. So where you see the 4-month sleep regression, there's actually a huge development in a child's circadian rhythms. And we want the formation of those. They're what govern our body's functioning. At 7 months, there could be another sleep regression that's related to crawling. At 1 year of age, there can be another sleep regression that's related to learning to walk and also the transition to 1 nap a day. So every single time that a parent comes to me and goes, I'm in the midst of a regression, I'm like, look at their development. So if they've started to do something new, it's probably that they need a change in their sleep routine. So yes, you will have different stages of sleep development that will have different levels of pressure on the parent in terms of wakefulness. But as a child grows and develops, their sleep capability grows and develops with it, and they can hold their stretches for sleep longer. They're developmentally capable of it, but not necessarily sleeping through the night. You still will have babies right up to 12 months of age that could still be waking overnight for comfort or feeds. And then you'll have other babies that will be sleeping through, so capable of either.
Okay. And it's important to share the load.
Oh, absolutely. 50-50 all the way. I think that's becoming more normalised in today's parents. Yep. I'd love
it's important to caveat that probably a little bit too, is it depending on each household and depending on...
Yeah, everybody's circumstances are going to be different. You might have...
Just we don't have loads of listeners going, Erica said.
I get that a lot in DMs. Erica said, the lady on Instagram said, no, I will be honest, in my house, it wasn't 50-50 when my kids were really small. It did fall to me, 80% of the time. It's actually gotten more 50-50 as they've gotten older, in fact. And obviously, different feeding preferences are going to throw up that, mammy maybe is going to be more hands-on because maybe you've got a breastfeeding mother involved, and that goes with the territory. But I really try and encourage that where you've got any situation where dad can get involved, that dad gets involved. So trying to, maybe have it that they take one half of the night and another half of the night, or one night and then the other parent takes the second night. I love to see that one parent is getting a decent bank of sleep under their belt and then the other parent is on duty, let's say. But trying to take it even 50-50 around other aspects, because sleep is just one part of parenting. The cooking, the cleaning, the running of the household, the remembering when to do things. I think that's one of the things that mothers really struggle with, that load of remembering where everybody has to be. So as much of separation out of the chores and the tasks as possible, and calling in external help.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. Like the communication piece is important here. We're going to get into couples counselling now, but like the communication part's important. Is it like having the cup of tea, maybe somewhere out of the house? Like we had a date night once a week where we get out of the house, and that 2 hours would be sacrosanct. Yeah, and you cover all kinds of stuff. Yeah, but you'd never cover that in the house. It was the getting out that created the space to be able to have the chat with regards to I need you to do another night or whatever. Yeah. That's a nice place to be able to have that chat.
I tell parents to do this all the time, that you need to maybe sit down together in or out of the house and sit down with a cup of tea and talk about the situation and talk about the pain points, what feels fraught to you and what you need from the other parent. And also, if you are trying to work on improving sleep, the plan and agreeing the plan between the two of you so that you're both ironclad, so that you will avoid the argument on the landing in the middle of the night outside the child's room. Like, we've all been there. I've been there. Yep. So yes, absolutely, communication is key. And look, I think if you're dealing with any level of difficulty around your parenting, it has a knock-on effect into your relationship. Mm-hmm. Like, I can say that when we were going through challenges with sleep, it was the most challenging time for us in terms of our relationship, but getting on top of it only helped us to improve it. Communication's not always amazing, but we get there. And like you guys, try and get out as much as possible to have a bit of crack, but communicate and talk about what needs addressing at home.
Chat to me about the key things that parents need to know. There's 7 of them, isn't there?
There's 7 of them. I call them my 7 steps to better sleep. I started talking about this many, many years ago, and I feel that if parents really hone in on these things, they'll get that sense of calm and that connection with their children, and also then their family will be thriving. So you'll be getting something amazing out of following these 7 things. So the first is look at your sleep environment. Your sleep environment where your child sleeps is really important. So it needs to be dark, quiet and consistent. Darkness to support the sleep hormone doing its thing. Quiet because a baby's not going to nap in a busy kitchen once they're above 3 or 4 months of age. They'll be distracted. And then consistent so that they associate it with sleep. Very often when I meet parents, a child could be sleeping on the couch, sleeping in the sling, sleeping in the buggy, sleeping in the bassinet. So there's no one consistent place. So by honing in on that, you're actually giving the body the signal that, I sleep there, and melatonin, the sleepy hormone, will start to rise. The next is they need to look at their timings. So if when you're offering sleep, the timing's not right for your child, and that's developmentally linked, then you're not going to get sleep initiation easily, and you're not going to get sleep duration either, the sleep maintenance. They're more likely to do the 40-minute naps and wake after an hour or 2 overnight. So trying to get those timings. And that's really like, look at what is recommended around their age range. Is it like 2-hour wake periods, 3-hour wake periods? The next is napping. Napping's really linked to timing. So if it's out, you're not going to get the naps. But equally, if they're not napping, they're more likely to have broken sleep overnight. Napping restores the body. It reduces the cortisol level in the body. And if you've got high cortisol, then they'll be overtired. And today's parents hear loads about overtiredness. It does have an effect. You're more likely to have an early riser if you have an overtired child. And like I'd say, early rising is the most reported thing.
Which makes, when you hear that you're like, surely if they're tired, they sleep longer. But actually, they don't. And they have to go to bed earlier to wake later.
The most
You gotta
reported,
get your head around that.
Totally. The most reported problem to me at the moment, at this recording time, is that we have early risers because of the back to school. They're all exhausted from back to school.
Oh, yeah.
So they actually need to go to bed earlier for additional sleep opportunities so that they'll sleep longer. It kind of sounds counterintuitive, but it is the greatest parenting sleep tool that you can have in your armoury to sort everything out. Yeah, waking early, go to bed. Cranky, go to bed. It's just key. And for me, I still use it to this day with particularly my youngest fella, who is a very, very busy little fella.
And it's important to say on the napping point of your 7 that like there are times when they will nap, or the granny and granddad might bring them home and they're asleep in the car and you're fit to kill them because the child's asleep in the car and there's a big hoo-ha. There are times where, you know, stuff happens and they will fall asleep and it won't be all ideal. So presumably, like,
80-20.
That's light. Yes. Okay.
Yes, 80-20 rule around, I think, anything in life to bring balance. You have to have 80% of the time that you're somewhat in routine, and 20% of the time what I call having the crack. So, and things won't always go according to plan. We're not dealing with little mini robots here.
Yeah.
We're dealing with little people. They're going to get sick. They're going to have an out and about day with their granny and granddad, which is so important. You're going to go on holiday. You're going to have a life. You need to get out for the coffee and meet your girlfriends. You need to do these things. But if you are 80% of the time offering a very steady napping routine, then that 20% of the time won't impact it, or it won't impact it as much.
Okay. What else should they know?
Definitely look at your nutrition. Milk solids balance for babies, and as they get a little bit older, look at, you know, the solids nutrition in particular. Babies from 6 months onwards don't hold on to their iron stores anymore, so you really need to be trying to give them as iron rich a diet as you possibly can. Low iron levels are very deeply linked to poor sleep and to disrupted sleep, particularly some of the para-insomnias like sleepwalking maybe in toddlers and young children, and night terrors as well. But like a hungry baby won't sleep. So if a child, a newborn or a young baby, is sleeping through feeds during the day, like, so that whole thing of don't ever wake a sleeping baby, if they're due a feed, wake them. Because if they sleep through it, they're going to seek that feed out overnight, because they are nutrition seeking machines, because they're growing so much. They need all of that nutrition. So just try and make sure that you're doing as balanced, you know, food as possible, healthy, wholesome nutrition, 80-20 again, you know. Should
you encourage your child to finish their dinner?
Oh, that's beyond my remit now, Carl. I do stay in my own lane, but...
what are your thoughts on it?
No,
as a parent?
As a parent, I don't. I have a very fussy younger guy, and if he tells me he's not hungry, I will give him permission to be away from the table.
Yeah.
And sometimes he'll come back and he'll then say, I'm hungry now, and he'll eat a full dinner. If I sit him down and like make him stay, he will dig his heels in and he will eat nothing. So I'm, now when I started out parenting, I was probably on the side of no, the finish your meal. But I think I've done enough research and I've been connected enough with people that really know what they're talking about, that I've changed my ways with this. So no, I'm not a big, like, you have to finish the whole bowl. Children intuitively eat.
Yep.
They will tell you when they're full, and they will tell you. But so if we're offering the good food, then that's the box that we're ticking.
Yep.
So that's really important.
You're inviting them to eat.
You're inviting them to eat. Yeah, you're inviting them to eat. The next is looking at your bedtime routine. Yeah. Carl, this doesn't have to be complicated.
And but bringing adults into this conversation, it's the same for an adult, isn't it, in terms of bedtime routine and rhythm?
Yes.
We're just basically big children in terms of that rhythmical routine to bed.
Yeah. You're giving your body the cues that bedtime is coming. Yeah. You're telling your body to release more melatonin, because that's what's going to get you to sleep and stay asleep. And by doing very repetitive things, 80-20 again, you're going to tell your body, oh, it's coming now. So like, I like to advise parents to turn off the telly in the hour prior to bedtime, because blue light does interrupt our sleep, and blue light is in everything. everything with a screen now. So turn off the telly in the hour prior to bedtime, and then you've got this window of one-on-one time with your child. So you can do something with them. And really all children want is our attention. They want our time. Put the phones away, maybe do a board game, a little bit of colouring, reading, chatting about the day, you know, just a little bit of time. And then start making your way towards your sleep environment. I always talk about going upstairs, but look, you could be living in a bungalow or an apartment. But heading towards your sleep environment, and like in the half an hour prior to lights out, you're doing the very normal things. You know, you're doing your toileting, you're getting ready for bed. Let them pick out pyjamas if they're a bit fussy about that. Let them choose their books. Dim down the lights in the room, because that again gives the body the signal that bedtime is coming.
That I was chatting to a company yesterday around wellness, and the sleep area of that. Tom Coleman gave me the tip. It's a brilliant tip that as a child of the 80s, I remember table lamps.
Yeah.
And they'd be switched on about like 7, 8 o'clock
Yeah,
or
we
whatever.
all had lamps.
Because the light was dimmed down towards the floor.
Yes.
And in our bedrooms, that's a really simple tip, isn't it? To have that kind of a low light lamp.
Yeah.
To bring it below eye line and just stop the big
pelmet.
bright room. Yeah,
the big pelmet light. And often when I talk to families, there's an awful lot going on in a child's bedroom. There could be like something that's telling a story in the corner, and then there could be stars shining up in the and there could be all sorts of madness going on. Just bring it back to basics. Like honestly, we had nothing in the 80s. Back to basics.
I'm going to ask you another very controversial question. Toys in the bedroom.
It depends on the child, Carl. If they are very easily distracted and the toys are causing an issue around settling to sleep, then yes, they're giving you the signal that that is an issue and it needs to be removed. Some children, no, they will get into bed and they will go to bed. But if you're trying to get on top of challenges, maybe looking at removing some of them might be effective. It could be an effective part of a strategy. So when you do your dim down of your lights, 2 little stories. I just love 2. If they're constantly asking for more, I sometimes find giving them a little bit of choice around their books really, really helps, because it gives them that sense of ownership. And that's it, 2 books. And you then have to say no. You know, no more books, that's it, you know, lights out now. And some parents will lie with their children to go to sleep. That's absolutely fine. Other children have a self-settling situation. And that brings me into the next point. So self-settling can be a big part of a sleep picture for a baby, a toddler or a child, but it will be really down to what fits with the parenting style and sometimes what the child needs, right? Some children will really need that. The thing about the brain, though, is it has a checking mechanism in it. And whatever's present when we go to sleep, it banks it. So if something is different when we come into light sleep, we are more likely to wake to seek that out. So when I speak to parents of toddlers in particular, like, yeah, he goes to sleep really quickly, you know, when I lie beside him, but then he'll wake every 2 hours seeking me out. That's why. So if you want more sleep duration, if you want less interrupted sleep for yourself, for them, then working on fading out your physical presence at bedtime is going to help that. Yeah. Removing the chair.
Forgotten about the chair.
The chair. Remember the chair?
Oh God.
Removal, fading
it was like
back.
3 inches every 3 days
Yeah.
or something. Actually, I've forgotten about that.
Slow but sure. When it comes to child sleep, slow but sure wins the race every time. You're thinking about marathon training here, not sprinting. Everything's slow. And then consistency.
Okay.
If you're doing, like, look, it's the same with anything in
And the
life.
consistency is the game plan, isn't it? Right, that people are on the same. So, like, it isn't that mum does one thing, or you know, one partner does one thing and one partner does the other thing. It's you both do the same thing.
You've agreed, you're on the same page, you've had your cup of tea, you've had your chat, you've agreed. If you're doing one thing one night and another thing another night, you might as well throw sand at the walls, nothing will stick. So it's all about that consistency piece, but alongside that, keeping your expectations real. They are not robots, they're children, and they will need time to adjust, just like we need time to adjust to change.
And to finish up, I suppose it is important to say to give yourself a little bit of love.
Oh, yeah.
This is all one big jigsaw and it's really hard. And if you can't do it, that's all right.
Parenting's hard.
Yeah.
It's one of the hardest jobs I think any of us can ever undertake. And yeah, you're going to feel like you've taken 20 million steps backwards before you take those 20 fabulous steps forward. So be kind to yourself at every turn. You're doing a great job.
It's been great to chat.
Yes.
I've had flashbacks of moving the chair now, but bar that, it's been fantastic. If people want to find you and follow you and get in touch, where do they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Babogue_sleep. You can find me babogue.com, and I have a brilliant membership called Thrive that helps parents with all things sleep, but also their parenting as well.
And hopefully at some stage a book in the pipeline.
I would absolutely love that. I have one. It's there in the back of the mind. I just need to get it out there now.
Okay, well, if we have any publishers listening in, get in touch with Erica. She absolutely has a book in her. Folks, I really hope you enjoyed today's episode of Real Health. We've had loads of questions for this topic for a very long time, so we're delighted to bring it to you. As ever, you know where we are, at Carl Henry PT on Instagram, realhealth@independent.ie, and on the Irish Independent website. We'll see you next week for more Real Health. Slán go fóill.